Okay, nobody's in this one yet because I just had to start a new one, but hopefully it's working fine now. This one yet because I started a new one, but hopefully it's working fine now. Oh, my sound's still off. That is so weird. What is going on? This one yet because I started a new one, but hopefully. Is it lining up with my voice? Like, is my mouth and my voice, are they lining up? Let me know if everything's working fine before I go ahead and continue. Okay, everything's good. That was so weird. I didn't do anything normally, or any different than I normally do. Awesome. All right, here we go. So, yeah, I thought this would be something fun to do, a little different. Just show you some of my favorite history channels. Up the baggies last night. That's right. Boy, I was a little nervous about that one. Yeah, and I feel like good chance Manchester United is going to win the league this year. But yeah, Carlin Grant came through for West Brom in the last 10 minutes. Big time. Yes, I have heard of What a Fault History. I've done some of their videos, actually. So I'm going to kind of show you some of my favorite video channels that I watch. Rangers won today. I didn't even get a chance to check up on them because my son, you can see I've got my Falcons soccer shirt on. My son had a travel game this morning, and it was cool because it was a really good game. First of all, we won 4-3, but it was tied 3-3 for a while. But a lot of his club teammates from his club team play for the team that they played against and traveled today. So it was like travel is like our community team. So like our team versus their community versus others, but then the club team has kids from multiple communities that play on the same team. So it was, yeah, he got to play against a bunch of his teammates. So so that was really cool. What do I do as a historian? You're looking at it. This is what I do as a historian. How's it going, everybody? So I'll do some Q&A in the midst of all of this. But the first one that's showing up, somebody already mentioned, was Epic History TV. Now, interesting, Epic History TV is the only copyright strike I've ever gotten for a video. And I probably could have challenged it and gotten it removed, but I ended up not doing that. I've learned a lot about how the copyright system works on YouTube since then, to where I think I probably could have challenged it and been okay. But at the time, it was my only copyright strike, and I had to wait 90 days for it to go away. If you get 3 copyright strikes, they shut your channel down. And this was a manual copyright strike, which means YouTube didn't see anything wrong with it, but then Epic History TV themselves went in a couple of weeks later and filed a copyright strike against me, which meant the video had to be taken down. I had no choice on it, which I didn't understand because a lot of other channels had reaction videos to the exact same video that I did. So I don't know what that was about. But yeah, this one's really, really cool. They've got good stuff. I did their Napoleonic War series recently, or part of it. There's more to it that I haven't done yet. I'm going to get to that because I'm hoping to go to Waterloo soon. And that'll be something I definitely want to cover on the channel. Do I think Arsenal can dig them out of the hole they're in? I don't know, man. Of course, they kicked my team's butt in the Carabao Cup, but we were playing a bunch of kids, like our under 23s, and Arsenal played their starting lineup, and they just destroyed West Brom. Yeah, I'm going to get into their World War I series at some point. World War I is kind of the thing I'm studying the most right now. It's the area that I'm developing a new passion for, doing a lot of research into my family members who were in World War I, doing a lot of research into the battles and what was going on. So I'm learning a lot about that. Will I watch PSG versus Man City on Tuesday? Probably, because I like Messi. What got me in, when did I really get into history? I was probably 8 years old. John Adams series. See, the only thing I worry about doing reactions to stuff like John Adams is the copyright issue, that they're going to ding me for that. But maybe as long as I only show short clips, I might be okay. What part of history do I know the best? The American Civil War and British medieval history. Okay, next one. And this is one that actually I learned about after doing the Scotland video yesterday. A bunch of people said, you got to check this guy out. So I did, and I love him. He's like the Scottish version of me. Except he only does the historic site videos, which is only a part of what I do on this channel. But he's awesome. I really like him a lot. Apparently his father's from like Ghana or something, so he's half African, half Scottish, but he's all Scottish, if you know what I mean. Like he's got the accent, and he grew up there, and he knows his stuff, and he's a lot of fun. I've been watching a lot of his videos lately. The Harlem Hellfighters, yes, very cool. As a historian, I think everybody who studies history has certain areas they're the most passionate about, and there's so much to history that you could never possibly be an expert in all of it. So for me, the areas that I've chosen to be my areas of expertise have been the American Civil War and American history in a broader sense as well. British medieval history, specifically the Wars of the Roses and the monarchy of Britain. But I'm working on getting World War I to be up there as far as expertise goes for me. But that's going to take years to get there. I mean, I've been studying the American Civil War for over 30 years, so I'm not going to get there overnight. But I've been devouring all the content I can on World War I, books and YouTube videos and things like that. Favorite book on the American Civil War? I really like Grant's memoirs on the Civil War. What about the history guy? Yeah, he does do great stuff. Personally, I don't know. It's just his format and his style. I don't have any. There's nothing like I'm not trying to be critical. It's just a personal preference thing for me with the history guy. I have nothing against him, and I think he does great stuff. And I'm really, really glad to see that he's doing really well. I'm not subscribed to him just because I don't know. It's just. I have a particular personality and a particular style that I like, and it's just not that for me. But good for him. I hope he's continues to be incredibly successful, and I'm glad he's out there putting out fantastic content. So let's see. You know what? I don't have History Will Travel, but I should. I've seen a lot of his videos. I could do some historical movie reviews at some point. Jesse, am I biased? Yes, everyone is biased. Anyone who says they're not is lying or is just not honest with themselves and doesn't understand. So yeah, Scotland, if you're at all into Scotland history and you want to see Scotland, like the historic sites themselves, this guy's fantastic. He's got 71,000 subscribers, and I hope that he grows like crazy. Because he deserves to. His name's Bruce, and he's great. He's really, really good. This is another one that I have discovered recently, Lamino. And let me tell you what, I watched, and at some point I will do some reactions. Jack the Ripper is another one of those areas that I've spent a lot of time researching. I did a research paper on it in high school. Been fascinated by the Jack the Ripper case ever since. His video that he put out 2 weeks ago on Jack the Ripper, I think, is the best presentation of the Jack the Ripper murders that I have ever seen. Any YouTube video, any TV documentary, that is the best that I've seen. So if you're at all interested in Jack the Ripper, Lamino's video on that is top notch. It's really, really, really good. So I'll check out some of his other stuff at some point, but so far that's the only one that I've watched. A bunch of people were suggesting his video on the Lost Colony of Roanoke, which I will probably do a reaction to at some point. I started playing it the other day, but then I stopped and I thought, I want to watch it and kind of react in real time. So I'm not going to watch. Techno streaming. I study a little bit of ancient history. I'm good at hiding my bias. It's not so much that I hide my bias. I think what allows me to be more balanced in my approach is that I acknowledge my bias up front. As long as you're honest about your bias and you understand what your biases are, it allows you to, at least a little easier, set those aside and acknowledge, and I'll be the first guy to tell you I don't know everything, and my perspective is my perspective. It's not the right one. It's just mine. And I expect that other people will see things differently. Epic History World War I, I probably will do at some point. My favorite history game ever is probably the one I'm playing right now, Grand Tactician, the Civil War. All right, History Underground, you guys hear me talk about JD all the time. I was just talking to him yesterday, actually. He's at 194,000 subscribers. If you have not already, if you like historic site videos, you have to subscribe to JD. Not only does he do phenomenal content, and he's really, really good at his presentation style, but he's also a really good guy. He and I, actually, we were just talking yesterday about maybe him coming up to Ohio and us doing some stuff around the historic sites in Ohio together. But we're planning on going to Europe together next year, and it's a larger tour that he's going to be opening up to a group. We're going to go to Normandy and stuff. But then we talked yesterday about maybe staying a few extra days after to do some additional content for our channels. So great guy, fantastic guy, and if you like historic site videos at all, you have to check out JD's channel. He's a history teacher and does really, really good stuff. I have seen Mark Felton. He's got some good stuff. Thank you, Ermin. I appreciate that. So when JD and I were in Georgia together back in May, he was at 117,000. I was at 109,000. So I just passed him while we were down there, but we've been kind of neck and neck ever since. And I love to see it. I love to see his growth because he absolutely deserves it. Today is his wife's birthday too. So I have watched History Matters. What's my thoughts on Franz Joseph? He was kind of old at the end of his life, and kind of a sad story how things ended up for him. He died in the middle of World War I. I have seen Tick's videos. All right, history buffs. A lot of you have probably seen their stuff. I don't do reaction videos to history buffs because I feel like they're kind of already reaction videos in and of themselves. It's him kind of reacting and making observations and reviews of historic movies. So I feel like it would be a little bit redundant for me to do reactions to his stuff. I love Oversimplified. My favorite horror movie, I'm not really into horror movies. Yeah, Moments in Trading, absolutely. I will grow faster than JD because I post more and because I do the reaction videos. If I was only doing historic site videos and I was doing them as often as he did, he would grow way faster than me because his stuff, let's be honest, his historic site video stuff's better than mine, and that's just because he's way better at presentations than I am. And I'm the first one to acknowledge that. And I'm not threatened by that. I think it's awesome. I try. I'm actually learning a lot from how he does his on how to do mine better. So, they're going to be, Amari, there's going to be a bunch of videos when I go to Normandy. Absolutely. My favorite war movie? Boy. Probably Glory. Yeah, so history buffs, he reviews history, like movies, and talks about the real history behind them. If you want to get a good inundation into his channel, check out the one he did on the movie Waterloo from the 1970s, which is really good. Baz Battles is another really good one. He's got about 700,000 subscribers. He does kind of a top-down, like looking like bird's eye view of famous battles and campaigns and stuff, and it's really, really well done. And he's got a great kind of eclectic collection. He's got ancient stuff like you can see here all the way back to 375 BC, and then he's got stuff like the Battle of the River Plate from World War II, St. Nazaire raid. So he's got everything there. Erman, I appreciate that. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I have not seen The Front. I've not been to Europe, Seth, but I'm planning to get there. Definitely going to tour World War II and World War I battlefields sometime as soon as I possibly can. Good books or authors on the Wars of the Roses. Yes, Dan Jones has a fantastic book on the Plantagenets, and he has one on the Wars of the Roses, and I highly recommend both of those. I have seen Schindler's List. What got me into Buddy Holly? That's a cool question. I grew up, I was raised by my grandparents. And maybe someday I'll tell that story on the channel. I don't know. I was raised by my maternal grandparents. And my grandpa's a musician, has been his whole life since he was a teenager. He grew up in the 50s doing that style of music. So my grandpa was about the same age as Buddy Holly. And so he grew up with that music and had bands over the years. And so for me, growing up in that house, his bands would be like in the garage or in the basement practicing. And when I was a teenager, the band that he had was a 50s and 60s band. And so that was the music I grew up with. And somewhere along the way, I just found myself drawn to Buddy Holly's music more than most of the other ones. And so I've been a huge fan ever since. Wait, is JD here? Hey, JD, what's going on, man? Hey, every one of you right now, he's in the chat. Go subscribe to JD's channel. He's fantastic, and wish his wife a happy birthday. Am I a teacher? No. I went to school to be a history teacher, but never have actually worked in the field. So, all right. So Douglas Haig, hero or villain? Somewhere probably in between, as are most people. I would say probably more on the hero side than villain. Did I like Schindler's List? It's one of those movies. Can you really like it? Like, I'm glad it exists, and I think everyone should see it. It's kind of like The Free State of Jones, which is a great movie, but hard to watch. I've heard a lot of people describe, like, when they go to Auschwitz, that, it's a place everybody should visit, but once you go there, you never want to go again. It's kind of like that with Schindler's List and Free State of Jones. They're really important movies that need to be seen to understand what happened. But boy, it's not like it leaves you feeling good or like, oh, that was a great movie when it was done, just because of the subject matter. Nate, thank you. Rhode Island. Hey, I got to get there, man. You are one of the 2 states I haven't been to yet. Rhode Island and Utah are the only states I've never been to. Flavius, it's JD's wife, but yeah, happy birthday to her. Zach, that is specifically the scene that I'm thinking of. The lynching scene in Free State of Jones wrecked me, man. I was wrecked by that scene because it was just, it's heartbreaking, especially when you know that stuff actually happened. It was brutal. Did I like the movie La Bamba? Yes, very good. Amistad was really good too. I have been to New Mexico. Okay. The Great War Channel, Indy Nidell, who you've probably seen me do the Sabaton history videos. This is like a week-by-week look at the Great War. They have a World War II one as well that he started doing. But the Great War was a week-by-week, and it's still going. Look at World War I, and now they're into the 1920s, so they're continuing that, but it's really, really well done. I like, now I know Indy Nidell's not doing it anymore, but he was involved for a long time, and I love his way of presenting a story. So it's really, really good. Seth, I have not been to Europe yet, but those plans are in the works. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Indy Nidell. War of 1812, yeah, that's something we could talk about sometime. All right, let's move on. We've got a bunch more to get to. I haven't seen the Sabaton collab with Baby Metal. All right, Operations Room. Really good stuff, especially if you're into more modern warfare, because most of their stuff is more modern. Like, you guys have seen me do the reaction to the one they did on the Battle of Breakcourt Manor, which if you've seen Band of Brothers, that was the one that Dick Winters was initially nominated for a Medal of Honor. It was downgraded to Distinguished Service Cross, which is ridiculous to me, but it was part of the politics of the day. They only gave one medal to each division for actions on Normandy on D-Day. But so I've done that one, but I'm going to probably do their Midway one pretty soon. But they've got stuff from Desert Storm, Black Hawk Down, the Battle of Mogadishu, Sinking of the Bismarck, stuff like that. Really good stuff. And Lady, there's so many of those kinds of connections. The connections between different parts of history. I have seen Black Sails. I thought it was pretty good. Matt, I agree. I love the community we have in this channel. And I get a lot of compliments from people who are new to the channel, who come and they can't believe how great the community is here. And that's not me, that's you guys. I delete comments here and there that are stupid. I love how JD handles them. JD does something really cool with the ridiculous comments that he gets, because everybody gets them. And that's a perfect example to me of how ridiculous people can be, because how anybody could watch any of JD's videos and come away thinking negatively of him is beyond me. But he highlights them. I mean, he doesn't like out the people. Like, he usually crosses their name out when he posts them, like on Facebook or Instagram. And then he'll have some really witty reply back to them, which I think is great. I don't handle it nearly that well. I usually just delete them. SORAM, I actually was watching a Time Team episode an hour ago. They were excavating a huge castle in Wales in the Welsh Marches. I don't know a lot about Canadian history. The Pin of Shame. That's right, Perestroika. The Pin of Shame. Okay. Sicily. I'd love to go to Sicily someday. Okay. So Operations Room is great. Another one of those top-down channels that shows you all the details of stuff and is really well researched. You've seen a lot of my Sabaton history stuff. These are the histories behind the songs that they do. And again, Indy Nidell is a great presenter for those things. Flavius, no worry, man. Oversimplify. We'll get to that. We haven't gone that far. Lionheart Filmworks. So they actually, they're kind of a composite place where they have some of their own stuff. And like their evolution of uniforms stuff is really, really cool. If you want to see what uniforms looked at different times and things like that. They have some of their own stuff, but they also are a gathering place for a ton of content created by other people, including TV shows and things like that over the years. A lot of really cool stuff on their channel. And you can see it here. But Lionheart Filmworks, they have the intro videos that you see. The videos that were done for the game, Grand Tactician, The Civil War, was done by Lionheart Filmworks. Hey, Tyler, how's it going? What part of Indiana are you in? We're lagging again, are we? Shouldn't be. I've got a good connection. Do I think that Italy will return back to fascism? I don't think so. Let me check and see what's going on here, guys. Will I ever go into modern politics? No, absolutely not. Are we good now? Yeah, Moments in Trading. I was actually just talking about the history guy earlier. He and I have a long history together, actually. It's an interesting story because I started a channel. Oh, I think it might be doing it again. No, maybe not. So I started a channel in my first YouTube channel was in December of 2016. It was a gaming channel called The History Guy. His channel started like 6 weeks later. So my channel and his were 6 weeks apart. Mine was first, but his grew much faster than mine. And about 2 years after I started my gaming channel, The History Guy, I started getting people from his channel showing up on my channel accusing me of copying off of him and stealing his name and all of those sorts of things. Never mind the fact that there were like 15 channels called The History Guy at the time. Because there's no, like, when you create a YouTube channel, it doesn't check your name against all the others to make sure that nobody else has that name. So you can create a channel with any name you want. And so, yeah, because his grew so much bigger, everyone assumed that I was copying off of him, even though neither one of us, at the time we created our channels, had any other idea about the other channel. So nobody was copying off of anybody. But so when that started happening, I ended up changing my gaming channel to History Guy Gaming. And then not long after that, I started this channel to do my historical content because I was doing it on the same channel with my gaming channel, and it just didn't work really well. So I've actually, I talked to his rep. I've never talked to him directly, but his rep reached out to me at one point and wanted to do some kind of a collab where, like, he would do a topic and I would do a game about it, and he would then tell people to check out my channel, but it never materialized. I told him I was all on board with it, and then I never heard from them again. So when will there be a Mr. Terry collab? Yeah, we need to do that. And Kat, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, Mr. Terry and I have talked about that. We just have to find the right idea and make it happen. Same with Mr. Beat. We've actually got a plan for a collab, me and Mr. Beat. Details will come about that because it's going to be a while from now. All right, you guys have all heard me talk about the American Battlefield Trust and how much I believe in their mission and what they do, and that I'm going to be their chief historian's a guy named Gary Edelman, who is uber passionate about history. I mean, he makes me seem tame in terms of the passion and the energy that he brings. And if you've seen the Grant documentary on the History Channel, Gary was in that. A little more calm, subdued version of Gary in that documentary, but you definitely have to check out his stuff. He's great, and I'm going to be with him in November in Gettysburg for an 8-hour battlefield walk that's sponsored by the Adams County Historical Society. And then him, and JD have kind of informally talked to each other about somehow all three of us getting together, because JD's actually done a collab with Gary from American Battlefield Trust. So hopefully I'll do that at some point. It would be awesome at some point if the three of us can get together. That would be like a dream. I think that would be fantastic. Any period of history I would not tackle. Yeah, mostly just modern stuff. Only because people are so passionate about it, and it's too near to really get into it without people's personalities and political beliefs and things like that getting involved in it. That, and honestly, I get uncomfortable anytime I do topics that I'm very unfamiliar with, which I do occasionally because people ask for it, but I don't like to do it because, first of all, I don't know if what I'm watching is true because I don't know enough myself to verify that. But also, I feel like I want to be able to add something of value, and if I can't add anything of value to what I'm reacting to, I feel like I'm just taking advantage and not really doing it justice. So, have I dismissed Bragg from my Grand Tactician yet? No, he's a brigade commander. So, well, it's funny, talking about doing a collab with Mr. Beat and Mr. Terry, because when I started this, Mr. Terry had like 250,000 subs and I had 1,000. I might catch him in a couple months if things keep going the way that they do. So, yeah, we'll do some more ancient history at some point. All right, so Yarn Hub. I love Yarn Hub. And yes, my wife just texted me, hey, your Mountain Dew looks black on the screen. Yeah, I mentioned that at the beginning. I know it does. Anytime I drink something green. Yarn Hub's great. And my wife and I just watched one of their videos last night, the one on Audie Murphy. It's all animated stuff, and you see me do some of their things, and it's cool. Yarn Hub is actually subscribed to this channel. They're one of several of these that have subscribed to me, so it's always really cool when fellow YouTubers subscribe back to me. But they do a great job, and they do some stuff with Sabaton, and they've actually just announced they've got a new thing coming out with Sabaton. And the guy from Yarn Hub told me, man, I wish I could tell you more, but I can't. And I'm like, oh, it's okay, I understand. Yes, I have played a Hearts of Iron 4 quite a bit. I figured Train Boy, that's probably what they're doing, but they haven't actually said that's what they're doing yet. Just that they're doing something connected with Sabaton's new album. My wife says, it's cute when you talk about me. Do it some more. My favorite ancient civilization in ancient history, probably Egypt. I like Egypt a lot. Very fascinating stuff. Right, Mr. Terry's a high school teacher, so he's got a day job, and I absolutely appreciate that. He doesn't upload nearly as frequently as I do. Overly Sarcastic Productions. I did one of theirs yesterday. Good stuff. Big fan of their presentation style. It's not all history. They also get into a lot of like mythology and things like that, which is cool. I like that a lot. The game Verdun, I do have the game Verdun. In fact, maybe I'll show you guys later my Steam collection of games, because it's quite extensive these days. And actually, Verdun's on my list of places I'm planning to go when I get to Europe, hopefully soon. Zach says, hi, wife of VTH. Her name's Tara, by the way, so you can say hi to Tara. I don't know much Algerian history. Why did I find the American Civil War so fascinating? I have two theories on that. One is just that it was really some of the earliest history I was exposed to. I was at the age in which I was developing my love for history. some really good stuff came out about the American Civil War. There were a couple of miniseries, The Blue and the Gray and North and South, which came out on TV, and I watched both of those, and they were about the Civil War. Also, Ken Burns' Civil War documentary, which came out when I was like 12 years old. So those were some of my earliest exposures. But I honestly think it goes a little deeper than that. As somebody who's really deeply involved in researching my family tree, which you guys know because you hear about it all the time. In fact, there's a lot of stuff out there on the internet about it being a drinking game, that you have to take a shot every time I mention my family tree. So that's kind of become a thing, apparently. But I truly believe that some of who our family is and some of their experiences and stuff like that gets passed down in our DNA. I really believe that. And I have a lot of reasons why I believe that, even from my own experiences. But I have a ridiculously high percentage of ancestors who fought in the American Civil War. I've got 15 direct ancestors. My wife, just to compare, my wife has one ancestor who fought in the Civil War. And by ancestor, I mean like great-great-great-great-grandfather, not an uncle or a cousin, a direct ancestor that she descends from. I've got 15. So like pretty much every member of my family who was old enough to fight in the Civil War did. And I think that's just as part of who I am. So Ohio is mentioned more than... So anytime I mention Ohio or an ancestor, you have to drink if you're a drinking person. So there you go. Am I Hispanic? No, actually, I'm not Hispanic. I'm not Italian. I am almost all Western European and African. That's pretty much it for me. A little bit of Native American way, way back. I have heard of Frank Abagnale. That's the one Leonardo DiCaprio played him in the movie about that. So what do I think about the last Poland massage to the... I'm assuming you meant message to the Allies. How do I know so much about my family tree? 30 years of research. That's why. Yes, I'm about 1/10 African, sub-Saharan African, which means like the part where all the slaves came from. My great-great-great-grandmother was born into slavery. So, all right. When I go to Europe, Napoleonic battlefields, Waterloo's definitely on my list. Yes. All right. Simple history. A lot of their videos are really short, but they're good. And theirs aren't so... Some of their stuff is focused on specific time periods and specific events, but some of them are more broad than that. Like they have stuff about weird technology. They did one on Desmond Doss. They did one I just reacted to about the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. They have one about the B-17 ball turret gunners, which we were fascinated by because my wife's grandfather was a ball turret gunner. Yeah, we could do a video. I don't know if I would do one specifically on Bushrod Johnson, Phil, but maybe it'd be cool to do a video in general about the people who went against their home state in the Civil War, because there were a lot of them on both sides. Am I 30 to 32? Amari, you are so kind. Yes. Yes, I'm 30 to 32. No, I just turned 44 in August. But thank you. I appreciate that. Will I play Suzerain? You know, I've looked at that a little bit. Maybe at some point. Is Napoleon the best general? I think he has to be in the conversation. It's hard to compare people from different generations, different eras of warfare. But you can't have a conversation about the best generals of all time without Napoleon being a part of that conversation. I will do Operations Room Midway at some point. Yes, I'm very fascinated by the Reformation and Martin Luther. Scotsman here. Awesome. Very cool. There will be more Scottish stuff to come, I promise. Okay, where are we at? Mr. Terry. Mr. Terry is one of the reasons I started doing reaction videos. The Judo Joker. Thank you. Croatia. Yeah, I don't know much about Croatia, but I tell you what, there's a lot of history there. The Balkans in general have had a huge impact on world history. Absolutely. So Mr. Terry, I watched some of his videos, and actually, you know how I found out about Mr. Terry is I was doing on my gaming channel a couple of years ago, I was doing a video. I was playing the 7 Years War mod for Hearts of Iron 4. And all of a sudden, the number of people in the stream, it was a live stream, tripled. And apparently what had happened was Mr. Terry went into his Discord and told everybody that they needed to come raid my channel. And so they did. So that was really cool. So that was actually my first interaction with Mr. Terry. And he's a great guy. And I'm glad to see his channel continuing to do really well. And he's definitely one of the inspirations that led me to do a similar thing to what he's doing. So, because I never intended for this channel to be a reaction channel. It just kind of became necessity when I couldn't travel to do something in the meantime until I could travel. And yeah, collab will happen. He and I have talked about that. We just haven't come up with a good idea yet. And I think he's on the West Coast, so timing will be an issue and stuff too. But yeah, he does do gaming too. I've seen that. But yeah, I don't know what my wife's laughing about now. She just said bah ha 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 about something. Yes, we will. Hannibal, Caesar, or Alexander. I'm a Caesar guy myself. All right, where are we at? Salmonella. All right, wait. My wife's chatting again. Let's see what she's saying here. She's downstairs. Oh, 30 to 32. That's what she's laughing about. She thought that was funny. She is a little bit younger than me. She's 2 years younger than me. But Historia Civilis, great stuff. Actually, that's what we've talked about. Heels, actually, maybe not a quiz game, but we've talked about maybe like playing a game together, like Civilization or maybe something like that, like and streaming that live. So anyway, all right, where are we at? Salmonella. Yeah, he hasn't done a video in quite a while. What was his most recent video? A year ago, the one on the William D. Porter, which I'm going to get to at some point. Is Sam Irish? I mean, he's certainly got an Irish name, but Onella, I don't know if that's his name, or if it's just a really cool name. Is Chamberlain overrated? Probably a little bit, but it depends on what you mean. I mean, I think what they did at Gettysburg's probably a little overrated, but is he overrated? No. I think everybody who served with him found him to be a very gallant and competent officer. And there's a reason he was chose to be the ceremonial kind of head of the surrender ceremony for the Union. Gets elected governor right after the war. So I think a lot of the praise is deserved, but I think he was also really good at promoting himself. He really wanted, after he was governor of Maine, he really wanted to be a U.S. senator, and he kind of fell out with the Republican Party in his state. And at the time, that was how you got to be senator, because senators weren't directly elected by the people. They were chosen by the state legislature. And if you lose your party's support, then you're not getting elected, no matter how many people want you to be a senator. So, yes, that's why the man Dan, I was thinking maybe that's not really his name. I think it's just kind of play on words. Pakistan, 12:40 a.m. Well, I'm glad you're here. Stonewall Jackson, I definitely believe, is overrated. Most overrated U.S. president for me, it's Franklin Roosevelt. Though I still think he's a great president. Sabaton! Oh, yeah. Okay, so just went to their concert. It was fantastic. Even my wife liked it. And I tell you what, when I first showed her the first Sabaton song I ever saw, which was Bismarck, she was like, I don't get it. They're cool, but it's history. How can it be cool? But now I think she gets it. And she loved the concert. She had a great time at the concert. And I love their music. In fact, it's mostly all I listen to anymore. That and a little bit of Ed Sheeran here and there. Do I think Atlantis was based on something real? I think it probably was, yes. Iron Maiden, Alexander the Great. Yeah, I get a lot of recommendations for that. So, okay. Here we go. I don't think I need to recommend this one to anybody. Oversimplified. Fire of Learning. I'll have to check that out. My wife said, I thought it was Red Baron you couldn't get out of your head. She said she can't get 82nd all the way out of her head. But I thought it was Red Baron, because Red Baron's the one she keeps talking about. Into the fires of hell they are gonna... That's 82nd all the way. But Red Baron is He's flying too fast and he's flying too high. She said both of them. Okay. Who do I think was the worst president? Andrew Johnson. Do I think D.B. Cooper survived his jump? Probably. I think by now somebody would have found his remains if he didn't. All right. Just Jen. So, not a History Channel. And I bring her up because I met her at the Sabaton concert. My wife and I met her. She's local here in Northeast Ohio. She lives up closer to Cleveland. But she does reaction videos to Sabaton and other stuff. She also has a very compelling story, her story of how she beat addiction in her life, and she's a single mom, and just very sweet lady. We sat together at the Sabaton concert because they were also there as guests of Sabaton, like we were, so our seats were together. We had been in line at the VIP entrance waiting to get our tickets outside, and then when we got inside, ended up finding out we were right next to each other. So, and it seems like since the Sabaton concert, her subscribers have kind of shot way up. So, in fact, take a look at this. Check this out. Right here is, I think it was right here was the Sabaton concert, was the 17th. And that's when she went from like 1 to 200 subscribers a day to 800 a day for a couple of days after the Sabaton concert. So that was kind of cool. So good for Jen. Glad to see her doing well. Do I like Corporal James Ryan? Not familiar with Corporal James Ryan. We'll do some Australian history at some point. Another Ohio mention equals another shot. Yes. If Napoleon had won Waterloo, I think he just would have been defeated anyway. Because when that happened, and we're going to get into some Napoleonic stuff because I'm planning on going to Waterloo, hopefully sooner rather than later. The moment he took command of that army again, before Waterloo, the coalition of nations immediately, like he tried to reach out to Britain and Prussia and Russia and all them and make peace and say, hey, no more wars. I'm done. Let's be cool. But they were like, no chance. And they started putting their coalition together. Excuse me. They were not going to allow Napoleon to stay in power. They would have kept hurling armies at him until he was finally defeated and just was bled dry. So, no, I don't think him winning Waterloo would have changed anything. If James Garfield would have survived, I think he would have gone down in history as one of our best presidents. The Borgias. I have seen the Borgias. Worst English king. Got to be John, right? I think John. Or maybe Richard II. Is Otto Graham the GOAT quarterback? I'm a Browns fan, so I have to say yes, right? Old MacDonald had a farm. Hey, Chef Boyardee is buried in Northeast Ohio. So there's that. And I think Bob Evans is from Ohio, too. Yeah, and the Austrians and Russians. Yeah, Steve. There were like 700,000 men converging on Napoleon. He was not going to win, even if he won at Waterloo. He just would have had like 4 other armies to have to fight. It was Napoleon versus the world. John C. Pemberton equals Richard II. Ryan, strange comparison, but weirdly very true at the same time. James II, he's pretty bad. You're right. Ohio mention, another shot. All right, Mr. Beat, there he is. Listen, he's got 400,000 subscribers, which is awesome. I'm beating him in views the last 30 days, but again, I put out way more content than he does, right? I mean, I've done 33 videos in the last 30 days. He's done 6. Kind of an unfair comparison, really. But he and I have very different views on the world, I think. But he's a really nice guy, and he knows what he's talking about. He's smart, and I have immense respect for him. I have no problem with somebody whose politics are different than mine, whose interests are different than mine, whose views on things are different than mine. As long as they know what they're talking about and they're educated on what they're saying, awesome, right? One of the things I especially love, and you've heard this a lot from me lately, I'm a little embarrassed. My wife said something I won't repeat, but just something about me being hot, and I'll leave it at that. But he, like me, I think Mr. Beat's very honest about his own bias. And I think that's a great starting point for dialogue, which is why I'm really looking forward to our collaboration, because I think it'll be passionate and we will have strong disagreements, but I think we will do so in a way that promotes understanding and conversation rather than is ugly or anything like that. So, K. Navanith, thank you from India. I appreciate that very much. Where's my fascination from Scottish history come from? My family history. Am I blushing? My wife said, yeah, maybe a little bit. It's a lot of my ancestry. I showed yesterday in the video, my DNA shows up as 32% Scottish. So Scotland's a big part of my DNA. Clan Hamilton. I'm descended from the Hamiltons. Alexander's like my first cousin 11 times removed or something like that. Attenshay. Yeah, Mr. Beat is an isolationist, absolutely. And I got no problem with that. I don't think I'll do the Supreme Court briefs of Mr. Beat just because it's not really my thing. Maybe some of the older ones, but I think it strays too much into controversial territory that I try for the most part to avoid on my channel. And especially after doing the Attenshay stuff, I think I'll probably leave that alone for a little while. How am I related to every president? I'm no more related to famous people than anybody else. I just know about mine, that's all. It's just years of doing research. I've discovered those connections. Everybody has them. Have I ranked vice presidents? No, I'll probably do that at some point. So, Mr. Beat, great stuff. Useful charts, you've seen me do some of their stuff as well. Maybe it's just me because I'm so into my family tree, but I love their presentation style. Plus, all their charts that they have, you can actually order. I don't know why I don't have any yet. My wall should be covered in them by now. But I actually record in the loft, which is like a Cape Cod style ceiling, so I can't really put things on the walls in here. So, plus my wife has stuff on all the walls already in here. So, I haven't done his Napoleon chart yet. I gotta do that at some point. Genia Vlogger, he and I have been talking the last couple of days about the potential for doing some collab. It's tough though, because I can't, one of the things he does YouTuber family trees. So he did Mr. Beat's family tree for him. He can't really do that for me because I've been working. I have 35,000 names in my family tree file already. I've been doing my family tree for 30 years. So, but we've talked about other ideas. He actually just emailed me with an idea for a collaboration we might do where he would do somebody's family tree and then I would do a video about, for example, if he, I think he just mentioned that Mr. Beat has an ancestor who was in the 37th Indiana during the Civil War. And then I could go and do a video about the 37th Indiana and what they did during the Civil War. That kind of thing. So, we're working on ideas for that. Did Brentford end up, I didn't see the end, but did Brentford end up tying them? I saw it was 3-3 last I checked. Yeah, Nixon's got Northeast Ohio. Hey, take another shot. Roots. His great-great-grandfather was from Ohio. His great-grandfather, who was killed at Gettysburg, was in an Ohio unit. I have lots of connections to Ireland. I actually have a line that descends from some of the kings of Ireland. Can't remember the name of the clan off the top of my head. Do I like to debate? Yes and no. I have a strong aversion to conflict that I'm overcoming. But if I would be in a room, being on staff in churches over the years, I've been in meetings, church board meetings that occasionally would get very, people would get worked up and very passionate about. And I would find an excuse to go to the bathroom, or I would kind of just sit there and do something and doodle or something, because I get very uncomfortable when people start having conflict with each other. For that reason, I have a hard time watching presidential debates, even though I love politics and I'm very passionate in my own personal political beliefs. I have a hard time watching it when they start talking over each other, like when you got 14 people up there and they all start interrupting each other. I have to turn it off. I just can't even watch it because it makes me very uncomfortable. Johnny Appleseed, Ohio Connections. What does the world look like if Napoleon wins? I don't think it'd be as bad as people think. Dances with Wolves was decent. The armchair historian. My wife says I annoy her when I won't let her watch politics. Like I used to like listen to talk radio all the time and things like that. Now I don't really anymore. I don't know. I'm kind of tired of it all. But she loves it, and so it annoys her when I don't want to hear it and I don't want to watch it and I don't want to watch like the news anymore and stuff like that. She says all day she wants to. Was Grant better than Sherman? Yeah, I think he was. I think Sherman was smarter than Grant, but I think Grant was a better general. Eric, yeah, I'm conservative politically, but yeah, and I appreciate your acceptance of me. But I'm also not psycho about it, if you know what I mean. I'm a rational person. I don't think that people who believe differently than me are evil. And most of the people that I've met that have been very liberal in their politics, when they meet me, they're surprised that I'm conservative because I think I go against a lot of the stereotypes that they've come to believe about conservatives. Just as I'm sure there are a lot of stereotypes that conservatives believe about liberals that are off base for a lot of them. I think that's where we got to start, right? Is we got to start by just stop assuming things about the other side, about people who are different than us. Anyway, watching a lecture. Thank you, Alexander, first of all. General Schofield indirectly killed General Thomas. I have not heard that before. I would assume it has something to do with what was going on at the Battle of Spotsylvania. Wait, General Thomas. I don't even know how General Thomas died. I was thinking of General Sedgwick for a second there. How did George Thomas die? Let's take a look, because now you have me curious. He died in 1870, so he died a couple years after the war. Died in San Francisco. What happened? Okay. He died of a stroke while writing an answer to an article criticizing his military career by his wartime rival John Schofield. General Sherman, who was general-in-chief by that point, personally conveyed the news to President Grant at the White House. None of Thomas's blood relatives attended his funeral, as they had never forgiven. Remember, George Thomas was a Virginian, so his whole family sided with the South in the Civil War. Wow. So I had never heard that, so I guess maybe there's some truth to that, huh? Interesting. Austin, thank you. I didn't put you in timeout. Zach's the only mod that's in here, so maybe Zach could answer that. I have done History of the World, I guess. It's actually my most viewed video on the channel. Geohistory. I've done one of their videos. I will probably do more at some point. I have seen letters from Iwo Jima. I thought it was really good. So geohistory is cool because they do everything like using a map. And so it's a cool way of telling stories using the map. So I like that. It's a different take. And, that's the point, right? Is find your niche. And for them, that's their niche. And they do it well. And I think they got good stuff. We'll do some more armchair historian at some point. Favorite Sabaton song, probably 82nd All the Way and The Lost Battalion are my two favorite. All right, so Kara and Nate, not a history channel. But as somebody who loves to travel and who doesn't get to go to all the places that he would like to go, because if it were up to me, I would be traveling every other week somewhere new. And I get to travel because of my job to a degree, but I don't really get to choose where I go for those. I go where they tell me to go, and that's pretty much it. So I live vicariously through Kara and Nate. They're fun. They have a fun personality. My wife and I watch their videos. We both find them very likable. And they do some cool stuff. Right now, they're kind of going to all the 50 states and doing something different in each state. My wife just said the same thing. She says, love Nate and Kara. Fun stuff. It's a travel channel. It's not a history channel, but it's really cool. What would I like to see from Oversimplified that they haven't already done? I know everybody wanted Napoleonic Wars. We finally got that. Let's see. What they haven't done yet that I would like them to do. The Wars of the Roses. They did Henry VIII, so they've been kind of in that area. I'd like to see their take on the Wars of the Roses because I think it's a fascinating story. And their way of telling it, I think, would engage a lot of people, especially because of Game of Thrones, because there's a lot of parallels between Game of Thrones and the Wars of the Roses. I apologize if I'm not getting to your questions, guys. I'm trying to get through all of these first, and then I will get to some more questions. Yes, I have some connections to Sweden. I'm like 5% Swedish in terms of my DNA. English Civil War would be interesting, too. All right. There's History Matters. I don't know if I've done any of their videos on the channel yet. I don't think I've done any reactions to their stuff yet. But I should, and I probably just have to find the right one. Kings and Generals. Kings and Generals are subscribers to my channel, so that's pretty cool. Kings and Generals, Mr. Beat, JD from History Underground, Yarn Hub, they're all subscribed to this channel. Mr. Terry. All right, let's see. Pennsylvania Jason, please stop saying that. You're going to keep getting timed out, dude. Promoting your own videos is not the way to go during a stream. How young are my subscribers? I think like 20 to 35 is the number one demographic for this channel. Used to be 95% male and 5% female. It's now about 10% female. So my wife thinks it's because I got LASIK and I don't wear glasses in my videos anymore, but I don't think it has anything to do with that. I skipped Armchair Historian. Did I? Oh, my bad. Yeah, I clicked on it and then I never talked about it, I think is what happened. He's cool. He's a young guy. Good stuff. I think he's done his research. He's done his homework and he knows what he's talking about and highly recommend him. All right, where are we? Crash Course. 13 million subscribers on their channel. I don't think I've done any of their videos yet either. But I like their stuff, and it's not all history. They've got a lot of other topics as well. Let's see. Do I still work for a church? Yeah, in fact, when I get done with the stream, I got to work on my sermon for tomorrow. So, Crash Course helped you pass history class. Very cool. Was European colonialism good for the world? Probably depends on your perspective. I think the people who were colonized would probably say no. And I'm in no position to disagree with that because I have no skin in the game, I guess, is a way to put it. I am pretty busy every day because my son had a soccer game this morning. He's got another one tomorrow morning that I'll miss because I have church. And then we've got a picnic for the soccer team in the afternoon. I've got a meeting at church in the evening. So probably not going to have time to do a video tomorrow, unfortunately. My wife says, did I get timed out? I haven't actually seen you say anything on the channel. I haven't seen you in the chat at all. So if you did, I didn't see it. Do I know my family history and genealogy? You're new here, I guess, huh? Placeholder. There's kind of a joke on the channel that it's a drinking game every time I mention one of my ancestors. Yes. What soccer position does he play? Mainly striker. On his travel team, he plays a lot of striker. On his club team, mostly, I think, right midfield. Used to be a goalie. In fact, when he started playing travel, it was goalkeeper was his primary position. But and he's a very good goalkeeper. But I think he wanted to be in the field more. And once he figured out he knew how to score, he wanted to get out there and start playing forward. So he's been kind of doing that ever since. Did I like your memes? Yes, Jaden, I definitely did. Where are we at? Addressing Gettysburg. So only 1.35K subscribers. We only have 1,300 subscribers. So I think we could probably drive that way up right now if I got some people to subscribe. But they do a podcast, and all their stuff's about Gettysburg. So it's really cool. And JD from the History Underground actually was a guest on there. I need to get them to guest star me because, I mean, if there is one event in all of history that I know more about than anything else, it's the Battle of Gettysburg. So bring me on sometime, guys. Gettysburg's my wheelhouse, man. When I was 12 years old, I was walking around the Gettysburg battlefield with a notebook in my hand, writing down all the information from all the monuments. That's how obsessed I have been with the Battle of Gettysburg. So, and my favorite history book, probably of all time, is this one right here, which is Harry Fance's book on Gettysburg the Second Day. This is literally 500 pages with really small type about basically 8 hours of fighting. So that's kind of the level to which I'm obsessed with Gettysburg. Alexander, thank you. Favorite historical place to visit in Washington, D.C.? Arlington National Cemetery. And I'm planning on making a visit there soon, hopefully. I've got a list of all the graves I want to visit. There's like 160 of them. I'm going to do multiple videos of content from there. I'm going to do one just about all the World War II people in Arlington, one about the women of Arlington, because there's a lot of very interesting women who are buried there. One about the politicians, there's a whole section with a bunch of Supreme Court justices in Arlington. So there's a lot of content to be made there. Hopefully I'll get a chance to get there. Oh boy, I think my wife's trying to, she's trying to make me blush again, and I think it worked. We'll just leave it at that. What's in that book? Them reloading the rifles? Pretty much. I haven't seen the Nuremberg trial by the history scope. What do I think of the USA, UK, and Australia joining naval forces? It's annoyed France. I don't know. Yeah, the Maine's mast is at Arlington. CM17 says sexy time in all capitals. Is my wife into history like me? No. But to her credit, she's trying really, really hard to take an interest. And I appreciate that. I know it does not come naturally to her. And so I appreciate her making the effort. Should we adopt a monarchy? I don't think we ever could, but I'd be okay with it. Jason, you're going to get banned, man. Just stop. John Michael Chance making plans for shooting a musket and driving a tank. Yes, working on that. I was actually watching something about that the other night. And for those of you new to the channel, when I hit 1 million subscribers, however long that takes, probably a year or so, at least. But when I hit 1 million subscribers, we've already decided that my 1 million subscriber celebration is I'm going to go to the UK and go to Biggin Hill and ride in a Spitfire. So I'm excited about that already. But yeah, I want to do some of those more living history things. So it's coming. Just got to find the time. The fall is the worst time of year for me to be able to do anything, because my son's got 2 different soccer teams and a cross-country team that he's on. So my son's on 3 different teams at the same time. My daughter is going to start her play practice this week because she just got one of the leads in the school play. So that's going to be going on. I'm also traveling for Rachel's Challenge, even though it's only part-time. My next event is in about a week and a half. I'm going to Connecticut. So it's a bad time for me to try and squeeze in travel and things like that, but I'm getting there. Would I rather be president or have 5 million subscribers? 5 million subscribers. I would not want any part of being president of the United States at all. No, thank you. Too stressful. No matter how good you do, half the country's going to hate you. Nah, no thanks. Favorite Civil War that's not the U.S.? English Civil War. One of my ancestors was a general in the English Civil War, so... Ichigo, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, Aztec history would be very cool to do at some point. All right, what's up, fandom? They've only got 240 subscribers, but that's only because their YouTube channel is really just a place to upload their podcast that they have. They have a podcast on all different things. I interviewed with them recently. You can see me right there. And actually, compared to a lot of their other podcasts, it's doing pretty good. So you can see that one, 500, some views, so pretty good. My wife says she wants to shoot things. Tell fans to hook me up, she said. My wife, her father, my father-in-law, who passed away a few years ago, avid gun collector. A lot of really cool guns he's collected over the years. So she grew up in a family, like he was a hunter and did a lot of shooting and stuff like that. So, favorite constitutional amendment. First Amendment. The English Civil War, the Roundheads, the one with King Charles, where he ended up beheaded, that one. Can I handle criticism, Jesse? I'd like to think so. If it's fair, I don't have a problem with it. Better President, Washington or Lincoln? Probably Washington. All right, Ava Rowland. So let me talk about Ava for a minute. Again, not a history channel. Ava is a friend of mine, and she is a kind of emerging country. She said, my wife says, not from his wife, talking about criticism. Ava and I met when I spoke at her high school a number of years ago. She was a senior in high school, and she and a friend of hers did all of the fundraising so that they could do Rachel's Challenge at their school. And I was the speaker that came in to do Rachel's Challenge at their school. And then after she graduated, she and I became friends. She's come to other events that I've done. She lives in Nashville, and she's a country music singer who's had several albums come out. So this is her music. She's a really sweet girl with a great heart and very talented. So there's Ava. What is my job? Well, these days, little dump, YouTube is. But I also preach in a church. And I also work for an organization called Rachel's Challenge, where I speak in schools about kindness. Walter's World. So here's another non-history channel. Again, kind of feeding my passion for travel when I can't travel. Since I don't get to a lot of these places. Boy, there's so many places I want to visit that I'll probably never get to them all in my whole life. And so I live vicariously through people like Walter's World. He does a lot of educational videos about what to expect when you travel to places, telling you what to do when you go to Germany, for example, what not to do when you go to the UK, that kind of stuff. So really cool stuff, and good like when you're planning for a trip. And I'm planning a lot of trips, even if I don't ever get to do half of them. All right, so would I rather be Adolf Hitler or Anne Frank? Anne Frank, absolutely. Am I old? I guess it depends on your perspective. My grandfather would say no. My daughter would say yes. Do I speak Latin? No, I do not. I recognize a few words, but that's about it. Okay. If I could save one president from dying in office, which one would it be? Abraham Lincoln. Because I think that would have had the greatest impact on history. Somebody insulted West Brom, but they used a swear word, so it got blocked. I'm not going to get into theology just because I don't want to alienate anybody. So I'll keep that stuff to myself. Would I rather be Pompey or Caesar? Pompey, he got to live longer. Aside from the channel, Mark Walters is a super good guy. Agree totally, JD. I obviously never met him, but he comes across as really cool. Like him a lot. And I don't think I could follow a channel if I didn't think that they were a likable person or a good person. If I found out for some reason that they weren't, I certainly couldn't support them. EECC Travels is a relatively new one that I discovered. They do a lot of cruises. My wife and I, our family, we've done 3 cruises. 2014, 2015, and 2016, we went on cruises. And cruises can be an addictive thing, but they're expensive, especially when you go with the whole family. But they're fun, and we were actually thinking about doing another one this fall. And we actually wanted to do one for our anniversary a couple of weeks ago, but it just didn't work out. So, Alexander, thoughts on the Mafia's involvement in historical USA and world events? I think it's probably overplayed. I think they probably have less Mafia involvement in the world. Yeah, actually, the man Dan, I'm 44 years old, and 3 of my 4 grandparents are still living. I lost my first grandparent a year and a half ago to lung cancer. My paternal grandfather, who sadly I never got the chance to meet, even though he lived like 10 minutes away from me. Long story. And again, that brings me to something. I've got a lot of really interesting stuff I'd love to vlog about that has nothing to do with history. And so I've toyed with the idea of doing those videos occasionally and maybe just doing like a side channel, not to make money or to grow into a regular thing, but just to put stuff that doesn't fit on this channel. And that's a whole other story I could share sometime, the whole thing, saga with my father and stuff. But so my paternal grandfather passed away from lung cancer a year and a half ago. And about a month ago, my maternal grandfather, who was the guy who raised me, was diagnosed with lung cancer. But it seems like he's going to be okay. They think they got all of it and it hasn't spread. So fingers crossed. He's 82 years old and doing great. Any advice for a freshman college student? Blake, here's what I would say. I don't know what you're studying, and I know that a lot of college students end up changing their major at least once. My wife did. I changed what I ended up doing. I majored in history, but then ended up being a pastor. But I would say do something you're passionate about, but also that's going to help you pay the bills. It's possible to do both. Don't do a job that's going to pay you a lot if you're going to be miserable your whole life. Find something you love and do that. Favorite Medal of Honor recipient, probably Desmond Doss. Huge fan of Desmond Doss just because of how he received the Medal of Honor. And there's another story that I want to tell in terms of the Medal of Honor. When I go to Europe, we having some trouble with the I hope everything's okay here. When I go to Europe, there's a story of a chaplain who received the Medal of Honor, who's buried over there, and he was one of the graves I was highlighting. Because I spend a lot of time dreaming about trips I want to take, and I will sit down and go into Google Docs and make a whole long itinerary of all the places I want to go if I were to take a trip to this place, even if I never get to do it. So that when I go, I'm all planned out. So like that's what I said about Arlington. I've got a list of like 160 graves, and I've got them all organized by section. So here's the graves I want to find in section 1. Here's the ones in section 2, so that I can do content on all of those things. Pastor and vicar, similar thing. That's right, CM17. So in researching the places I want to go in Western Europe, I came across this grave of a chaplain who received the Medal of Honor. He was a Catholic priest, and it's a cool story that hopefully I'll get a chance to share at some point. Also, one I'm going to do a video on sometime. My wife's saying embarrassing things again. Is the story of Freddie Stowers, I think is his name. He was the first black man to receive the Medal of Honor for action in World War I. And we'll probably do a video about him soon. But he didn't receive it until 1991. It was given to his sisters by President George Bush, the first George Bush. That's a great story that I think needs to be told at some point. Am I a college professor? No. I did go to school. That was my goal. When I went to college, I wanted to be a college professor. It just never worked out. So, what country would I like to learn more about? Germany is the one I'd like to learn more about. All right. So ECC Travels, they do a lot of cruise stuff, so that's cool. All these Rachel Joy ones are my daughter's channels. She hasn't been doing any content for them yet. She created them, but hasn't actually started making stuff yet. So not a lot to say about that. Pure Kino, I did a podcast with him, an interview with him. It was a lot of fun. He mostly does Sopranos stuff, but he interviewed me recently for the channel. So that was a lot of fun. Let me see if I can find that. There it is right there. 3,500 views. Doesn't have the same number of views that all his Sopranos stuff does, but that's okay. Lord Zemnes. Have I heard the story of Robert Smalls, commandeered a Confederate ship and sailed, captured slaves to freedom? No, but that's interesting, and I should look into that more, definitely. Yeah, Podascus makes a good point. Is that you, random German guy. That honestly, I get to reach far more people through this platform than I ever would through teaching in a classroom. So I'm happy for that chance. Thoughts, Austin, thank you for the donation. Thoughts on liberals saying America is stolen land. I'm torn on that issue, and that's something I'm going to talk more about when I go to the Little Bighorn battlefield, because I do want to get into some of the background of what led to the Battle of the Little Bighorn, and there's a lot there. It goes both ways. I can see both sides, and I want to try and be balanced in my approach to it when it comes to that. Did the European powers and then later America start to steal land from the Native Americans? Yes. Had they been doing that to each other for centuries before the Europeans ever arrived? Also true. So on one hand, you can look at it and say, well, they were doing it to each other. The Lakota and the Crow Native American tribes had been at war and taking each other's land for centuries. But at the same time, you can't get around the fact that, and I'll get to these other ones in a minute here, you can't get around the fact that we did some really dirty things. By we, I mean the United States government, to the Native Americans and some of the treaties and going back on them. And the one that I'll specifically deal with in talking about Little Bighorn is the treaty where we set aside a reservation that included the Black Hills. And then within a couple of years, because gold got found in the Black Hills, immediately tried to go back on that treaty, tried to buy the Black Hills from the Native Americans. They said no, and so then we went to war over it, basically. And that's an oversimplification of what happened, but can't get around that being a pretty nasty way of dealing with people that you had just made an agreement with, because, oh well, never mind, we take it back, there's gold there. But at the same time, understand the Native Americans weren't innocent people that were being victimized by the Europeans. They had been doing the same thing to each other. So I see both sides of it, so I'm probably somewhere in the middle. Can I give you a sermon? No, I'll kind of avoid that stuff. I live about 2.5 hours from Columbus, Jaden. Alexander, the Mississippi burning case in the 60s. FBI hired a mafia guy to help them find the bodies. He kidnapped and tortured a Klansman who told them where the bodies were and how they broke the case. Interesting. I might have to check that out. And thank you for that, Alexander. And thank you, Elijah, as well. Favorite historical figure or weirdest? Favorite is probably Grant. Weirdest? Stonewall Jackson was a pretty weird dude. And yeah, Treaty of Fort Laramie. So I guess what I'm saying is I try to see both sides in those situations, and I try to acknowledge when people did things wrong, but also see how the other side could be wrong too. It's rarely black and white in history. I have watched History Matters. Do I think Columbus Day should be abolished? I don't have an opinion on that one way or the other. I guess I can understand why some people might think so, but it's not something I'm a Cleveland Indians fan, and I hate that we're changing our name, but I probably could have accepted it better if we changed it to something better than the Guardians. But again, I have like 3 Native American ancestors that I have to go back 300 years to get to. So I'm really not in a position to say how Native Americans do or should feel about it. James Garfield's impressive juggling skills. I wasn't aware that he had those. Why the sweater? It was a little chilly this morning. I'm wearing a hoodie for my son's soccer team. And it was like 55 degrees this morning for the game. So I've just had it on since then. All right. Red Coat. So he's only got 11,000 subscribers. But here's what's cool about him. He makes historic site videos from places that most of us will never go. Oh boy, my wife is really, really trying to embarrass me right now. Okay, I better wrap this stream up here pretty soon. We got to get to the rest of these videos, these channels. So what's cool about this channel is he goes to places like Rorke's Drift, Island Luanda in South Africa. So he does like battlefields from the Anglo-Zulu War. He's got some podcast stuff. So really cool, especially if you want to see a good view of the battlefield of places like Rorke's Drift. Really good stuff. So check that out. He's got a drone, so he uses his drone for some of his stuff. And so, like I said, he goes to places most people never really get to. How did I like my trip to Vicksburg? To this point, my favorite historical trip I've ever taken. And there's a number of reasons for that. First of all, it was somewhere I'd never been. It was somewhere I'd wanted to go for a long time. I got to retrace the steps of one of my ancestors. I got to meet really cool people like Ryan, who was in here earlier in the chat. He's usually in most of the live streams. Ryan's the one who lent me his uniform for some videos that you guys will be seeing down the road about the 20th Ohio Infantry. But he also helped out a lot the day that we did our tour of the battlefield. We had like 12 people that showed up for the meetup on the Vicksburg battlefield, and he helped a ton, telling people stuff I couldn't have told them and showing and giving history and background that I didn't have. So that was, for those reasons, that was my favorite trip so far. But I think the first time I go to Europe, and any trip to Europe is going to be up there as my favorite ones. Urban legends. Yeah, we might do some urban legends stuff at some point. Favorite military uniform. Some of the Napoleonic uniforms are really, really cool. Kaiser Wilhelm, that's fair. I don't think Columbus is a good role model for kids. I agree. Oh, there's Ryan. He's here. Oh, we're getting another little glitch in the stream here. Let me give it a second to make sure it's working okay. All right, I think we're good now. We should be okay. All right, we should be back here in a second. I think we should be in good shape now. The Cleveland Unchained. That's interesting. Am I a Catholic? No. Hit it with a hammer. That'll fix it. You do not want me to try and do an accent. I will just offend people. I tell you what. I'm really good at recognizing accents. Like, I can usually tell the difference between a Glasgow and an Edinburgh accent among Scottish people. But I'm terrible at doing accents. I don't know why that is. A video game lore, it's not. I don't think it really fits with my channel, and there's some really good ones that do that already. So probably not. Am I your friend? Like, you mean like friend? Yeah, I'll be your friend, Mikkel. I've done a little bit of studying of the Scottish Covenanters because my Chambers family were Ulster Scots who were Covenanters. Oh boy, my wife's still like sending me chats that I will not repeat. Can I do I can't do any accents. I'm terrible at doing accents. All right, so anyway. So Jovita Theron Stiegler is actually not a content creator, but she shows up in my subscription things because I subscribed to her because I want to reach out to her at some point. Her father was Franz Stiegler. So if you're familiar with me doing the reaction to the No Bullets Fly story from Sabaton, which is the story of Franz Stiegler and Charlie Brown. Franz Stiegler was a German Messerschmitt fighter pilot. I think it was a Messerschmitt, who had the opportunity to shoot down a B-17, an American B-17 that had already been crippled and was returning to base and didn't do it and actually escorted them to safety at the risk of his own life. And then many years later, he and Charlie Brown, who was the commander, the pilot of the American plane, became friends. And then to come and find out that Charlie Brown's plane, that B-17, was in the same bomb group as my wife's grandfather was. So I thought that was really cool, and I thought at some point I might want to reach out to her. So that's why. Do an Ohioan accent, you're hearing it. It is an amazing story. Actually, the history, you say it's treason, but believe it or not, Franz Stiegler was actually obeying orders. He had been told by his commanding officer that if he ever shot someone who was defenseless, that he would hang him himself, like somebody that was parachuting and stuff like that. And to him, a damaged B-17 that couldn't fight back was no different than a guy parachuting. And so he saw it that way. Favorite founding father, Alexander Hamilton. Yes, Charlie Brown. Well, the Air Force was at the time the Army Air Forces, so the Air Force was actually a part of the Army. It wasn't its own separate thing at the time. Yes, I'm an Ohioan, born and raised in Northeast Ohio. Okay, Hard Travel, another cruise guy. He does tours of cruise ships and things like that. So, like I said, my wife and I are hoping to do another cruise sometime. So, do I prefer NFL or college football? I prefer NFL, but my college team's way better historically. Do I think West Brom will get promoted? Yes, I do. I think this year they will get promoted. I think they'll finish in the top 2. Looks like them and Bournemouth right now. Spitfire versus BF 109. That's a tough one. I like Spitfires a lot. Creative name, I disagree. I think Alexander Hamilton, even with the musical and everything, is still underrated as a founding father. I do watch European football. I was watching it this morning, watching it yesterday. Oh, boy. This is why we can't have nice things. All right, where are we at? The Townsends. Again, this is another channel that I learned about through you guys. Because I wanted to start looking into the idea of doing living history stuff, and that's what they do on their channel, is living history. They experience history firsthand. They make bread, and they learn how to build log cabins and that kind of stuff. So, oh boy. So yeah, good stuff there. Michigan gang, just someone. Hey, nobody's perfect. I accept you for who you are. So let me tell you an interesting story. So my son, my eldest son, I have a daughter who's a junior in high school. For those of you not familiar, that's 11th grade. So she'll graduate in about a year and a half. My 2 sons are in 8th grade and 3rd grade. So my 8th grade son, he's in the STEM program, which is science, technology, engineering, math. It's a different track that you have to apply, and they interview you and all this stuff, and they only take 25 kids out of 300 in each grade to be in the STEM program. So he applied starting in 6th grade, and this is his 3rd year in the STEM program because he wants to be an aerospace engineer. And brilliant kid. He's super smart, my son. All 3 of my kids are really smart. They get that from me, I like to say. So my son, as part of the STEM program, they have to, at the beginning of each year, they have to write a letter to a college and ask them for information about the program that they're interested in studying when they get to college. So for my son Caleb, that's aerospace engineering. So last year he wrote to Case Western Reserve University, which is up in Cleveland. Fantastic school. We have a NASA research center in Cleveland, the John Glenn Research Center. So they do a lot of internships directly with NASA because of that research center right there. So I thought that's perfect. It'd be perfect for him if he wants to work on the space program or anything like that. And taken after their mother, someone said. How nice. So this year they had to write to another school and request information, but it couldn't be the same school they requested last year. So my son's sitting in the living room, in the front room of the house. I think I was in the kitchen at the time, sitting at the table. And I said, Caleb, so what school did you write to this year? And he says, University of Michigan. And that's the look I had on my face. And for most of the world, you can't relate to that. But for my England friends, it would be like you grew up a Manchester United fan and your son told you that he was going to play for Man City. That's the kind of level of thing we're talking about here. It was horrifying. Now, no, I'm going to support my son, whatever he chooses to do. And if that's where he thinks he can get the best education for what he wants to do, I will support him. I say that tongue in cheek, but I really hope he doesn't go to Michigan. Anyway, yeah, huge rivals, like one of the biggest rivalries in the world. Like to the point where when we play each other in football, the governor of Ohio issues a decree banning the letter M from being used. And we don't even mention the name of that school during football season. We call them the team up north or the state up north. Alex Martinez says, I have no son. Do I prefer to use the World War I or the Great War? I usually say World War I, but I sometimes refer to it as the Great War. I mean, certainly at the time, it would have been the Great War. Okay, what are we on to here? TVM Enterprises. I don't even remember subscribing to them, but I think they're the ones who do that, who created that app that I've used a few times, which animates the Gettysburg battlefield. So that's why. A couple of these are just personal people that I'm subscribed to that don't actually do content. Stephen Ambrose Historical Tours, I subscribed to a long, long time ago. Am I losing it again? The War to End All Wars. There you go. All right, we're going to wrap up here before too long. I think the lag's back a little bit. Let me pull the chat back up. All right, I think we're good. Am I an athlete? Now, no. In college, yes. I ran track and cross country in high school and in college. So I was an athlete. Not anymore. Yeah, so Stephen Ambrose is the guy who wrote Band of Brothers, wrote a lot of very, very good books. I will probably do his book on D-Day again before I go to Normandy next year. I have not heard of DeFedele. I'll have to check that out. But so they do tours. So I just thought that was kind of cool. Drakhinifel, a lot of you guys are familiar with. He does a lot of naval history stuff, very well researched, very well presented. A lot of in-depth stuff if you're looking for naval history. Alternate History Hub's good, yes. So there's What If Alt Hist. A lot of these channels are really close in size to mine these days, which is kind of cool. I'm just going to fly through some of these because I'm going to wrap it up here before too long. We've been going for how long now? I don't know because I stopped in the middle. Mr. Terry's, there's his gaming channel. Vlogs and Fun with Eli is my youngest son's channel. He doesn't make content regularly, and he just turned 9 years old, so most of his videos were made when he was like 7 or 8. But there's his channel. He's got 1,900 subscribers. I have not read Max Hastings' Overlord. I might have to check that one out. Do I think the USA will ever get rid of the Electoral College? 100% no. And that's not even my own view on whether or not I think it's good or bad. There's just no way in terms of how the way that you get rid of the Electoral College just can't happen. Because you need 3/4 of the states to agree to that. And 3/4 of the states are never going to agree to that. So no. History Explained. That's more ancient stuff. And if I remember right, he reached out to me and said, hey, check out my channel if you would. So, do I know who Rob from British Muzzleloaders is? No, I do not. Have I read 1984? Not for a long, long time. Sam's doing stuff. Sam's a friend of mine. I've done music with Sam. He's a bass player for a band that I used to do concerts with. So he just does stuff like around his yard, cutting down trees and that kind of stuff. Oh, man, he just said that Mr. Terry's nicer than me. We're going to have words later now. I'm just kidding. The Chosen, for those of you who may be Christians, and like I said, I don't talk about my faith much, but to me personally, the best religious series ever done, ever. It's about Jesus and the disciples. Super, super good. If you are at all interested in that sort of thing, you have to check out The Chosen. Excellent, excellent. Drawn of History, I've had a chance to talk to. He's got 6.66K subscribers right now. So we went right from Jesus to 666. How appropriate is that? Kings and Generals is good. Real good. I like their stuff. And they subscribe to me, so I'm going to support them for that alone. Drawn of History's got a very unique sense of humor that I don't think is for everyone. But I like it. We'll probably do his War of 1812 one stuff at some point. Ryan, glad you liked it too. Yeah, I just think it's really, really good. If you are into that sort of thing. All right, TubeBuddy is just some software that I use. Extra Credits, you guys know I'm a big fan of that. I've probably done more of their stuff on the channel than any other single channel that I do reactions to. You want to know more about the Wars of the Roses? Fascinating time in history. We could do some more videos at some point. Glad to hear that, Pedascus. I'm glad that the quality of the work can reach even beyond religious people. So I appreciate that. Can you be my third son? My son Eli might object to that. Have I watched Warhawk? No, I haven't seen his channel yet. Battlefield Explorer is another guy like me and JD and others who does historic site videos. I believe he actually lives in Europe. So he focuses a lot on like places like the Netherlands and things like that. So he's got some good stuff. Erwin Rommel leading the Confederates versus George Gordon Meade at the Battle of Gettysburg. Who wins? I still think Meade does. Historia Civilis I haven't watched much of, but I'll get into some of their stuff. There's Kings and Generals. Good stuff. There's, again, has a nice big spread all the way from ancient times to much more modern stuff. They're doing a lot of Cold War stuff right now, so it's really good. I have watched a little bit of Mark Felton, yeah. Gory Gaming 24601, she is my daughter, and she was the first silver play button in the house, though she's gotten away from the stuff that she first grew her channel on, and she hasn't been making a lot of content recently. In fact, if you look videos in the last 30 days, she's done 10, and I think they were all live streams. And she's playing a game that's not nearly as popular now, but my daughter's a very talented YouTuber. She's got a great personality, and is very successful. So, Hamilton or Washington? Washington. There's Alternate History Hub. We've reacted to some of their stuff. Here's my gaming channel. We are, 300 subscribers away from 50,000? So get on it, guys, if you haven't already. I need to start doing some more regular content. I've only been doing maybe like 3 videos a week on there just because I've said this before and I'll say it again. Take a look right here. In the last 30 days, 2.83 million views on this channel, 200,000 views on that channel. And it takes me about 5 times as long to make not 5 times. I would say 2 to 3 times as much work to do a gaming video as it does to do one of my videos for this channel. So to get 100 times, is it 100? 10 times. To get 10 to 12 times the views for a lot less work is why I do daily content on this channel and not as much on the gaming channel. But I'm not going to give up the gaming channel. I just can't put as much time into it as I used to. At least not this time of year. Maybe later in the year I'll be able to do that. So, yeah, we'll do some more Kraut stuff at some point. So that's it. So those are all the ones I'm currently subscribed to. I have not played Dark Souls yet, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up because throat's getting a little bit sore, and I do have some other work I've got to get done. I got to plan a sermon for tomorrow yet. So, yeah, you know what? I'm terrible with thumbnails in general, right? I mean, thumbnails are just not my thing. I'm not an artsy type of person. You see that with the thumbnails for this channel. I'm terrible with thumbnails and subscriptions. So if you guys have suggestions or want to send me ideas for thumbnails, please do. vloggingthroughhistory@gmail.com. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to everybody who donated, and we'll see you again soon.